Okay, welcome everybody back for what I'm sure is going to be a very challenging and interesting discussion. We are on a fun journey and a challenging journey. Sometimes those don't exactly align the same, but it is what we are all dealing with. I have back with me Casey and Charlie to continue to discussing our paths to freedom. So the first thing I want to say is, I put up 3 segments of video in the previous exchange that we had, and I shouldn't have done it like I did, where I put one up right after the other, because it is obvious that there is a lot of people who didn't see the middle one. They saw the first one, and there was a lot that saw the second one, but the one that had the meat of it didn't get quite as many views, and I think that's the way, because of the way things are presented via YouTube in your feeds. So for those of you who did not get the second one, I would highly advise that you go back and maybe give it a listen or a re-listen, because it was a second hour that we really kind of got into the meat of what we're discussing here, and it would help it might help you before you get into this discussion to go back and listen to that. I'll see if I can try and leave a link right here up in the upper window for you guys to go check that out if you're on a computer. If not, you'll have to go back through my channel to the feed and go to part 2 or whatever it was, I think. Please do that, because to be full and true to you in how I see this, I feel in my heart that what Charlie's doing here is something that we all need to pursue in some form or fashion. Now, what is that? And if you're just coming here new and you haven't seen any of it, it's Charlie has written out some documents for which you can use to assert your sovereignty in some form or fashion, depending upon how you apply it. And the title of the video is "The Pursuit of Freedom." And in our discussions the last go round, there was a lot of good comments, and we'll get into some of those as we go along here. But the point is this: we were in belief that we were all free to the greater extent, and as the last few years have rolled along, we've all or at least all of you watching this video, are going to be in realization that the realities that we thought we are in are not exactly true. Matter of fact, there's a lot of lies floating around, and a lot of lies that we've been living in, and the question is, how do we navigate that? And with Charlie's letters and documents that he's created is an attempt to do that. And we've discussed this in other videos with other gentlemen that have done this as well, and that they have figured out ways to navigate out of this slavery system that has been created around us. And that would lead to the first point of one of the comments. And let me get through a few of these before we jump into them. But one of the first points of the comments was Charlie was in assertion that we are in a constitutional representative republic based on what was created in this country. And I would agree with some of the commenters that I'm not so sure that's truly what exists at this time, because the evidence isn't. And navigating it, if we're in a true constitutional republic, we wouldn't have the issues that we're dealing with. They have been our rights and those laws, the laws that were there to protect us from government, have been usurped in many ways. And that has to be acknowledged, that quite frankly, we are immersed in a huge amount of corruption. And sometimes people will respect the Constitution. There are a few people out here in our country that still respect it. But the vast majority of them, people that we meet, know, work with, live with, haven't even read the Constitution, so they don't even know what the hell they're dealing with, to be honest. So we're in a challenging situation of how to navigate that. He's got a means by which to attempt that. The reason Casey originally called me was to discuss how we can have more people assert that. And I'm gonna restate this. I truly believe that if everybody had the same standing attitude and demeanor as Charlie does, then we probably wouldn't be in the situation that we are in with the corruption, because we would be holding people accountable. We're not there, and this is what I'm saying. We need to figure out how to somehow achieve what Charlie has in some form or fashion, if we can. And then that leads me to another question, and that is, in understanding where we're at in the cycles of things, it is my opinion that we are in the process of watching the remnants of what was our constitutional republic completely collapse around us because of the corruption. And history says to us that governments in that position tend not to survive. They don't survive very well in this kind of situation. And, you know, one of my question, along with a couple others, was, well, you know, if the constitutional republic that we thought we had is no longer, and it's corrupt, and it's in the process of collapsing, need we take a stand and go through the effort? Because we know how that works too, based on history. And if you are a dissenter in a corrupt government and you stand up, you tend to get your head shot off. Or do you sit back and allow things to crumble around you and hope to have educated your friends and family and maybe be able to rebuild things afterwards? There's a lot of crazy questions that we could be asking about this, but that's the kind of stuff that was stirred up in the conversation. I believe what we're talking about is extraordinarily important for all our educations and where we all are. And in conclusion, and then I'll turn it over to Cassie and Charlie. Let me see if I can find the right words for this. The whole reason we're having this discussion is to figure out what works, because it is a game, and as I've stated before, it's a game board. They know it, and they write the rules and they change the rules to suit their needs. The corrupt ones do, and the real true question, I guess, for where Charlie stands with what he's attempting to do on this game board is to be tested. And that's the heart. I think that's the true heart of this discussion, is the success rates. How well does it work? How many people have tried it? How many people have succeeded? How many people have failed? Has it been tested in places that we know are wholly and completely corrupt? Has it, where is the time to, we want to test things for their success, and that's what this conversation is about. And like I said, I'm sorry for the long lead in here, but I think it's important that we have a good overview picture of what we're actually trying to achieve here. And that's why I'm doing this, is because I believe, like I said, that we're all getting around that bush one way or another, but we're headed to the same point, I think. So who wants to take off? Cassie? Charlie?
You bet. Two things before I go into responding to your points. Number one, Erin, you're a very clear thinker. I appreciate that more than you can possibly imagine. Number two, you created a platform that asks the right questions. That's truly unique in this electronic world. Well done, and thank you. Second thing is, Casey's my partner for a reason. I trust her 100%. She's as committed to all of what we have put on the website and stand for as I am. We might fight like cats and dogs, and we do, but we always come back to the same point. And here's where the point begins. God don't build sloppy product. You got to screw it up. That's simple. When you don't identify yourself and what your standing and capacity is in the society around you, and you let someone else define who you are, in my world, that's pissing in creator's face. Because you were given the choice to be a real American, the great privilege to be born in this country, or to immigrate here lawfully, and stand on the principles of liberty for every man on the planet. So, Casey forwarded me a number of the comments, and here's the first piece that hit me after I read them. What's missing in all of those comments is the basic understanding that we are at war and have been for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody that does not understand China committed an act of war on us with the Wuhan virus, no matter how many partners they had where, is stupid. If people don't understand that China and their other partners, both domestic and foreign, tampered with our elections to destroy our whole culture, they're freaking stupid.
Well, hold on, Charlie. Charlie, hold on. Before I want to point fingers outside of this country, I would prefer to keep the finger pointing inside the country, because China wouldn't be here if we didn't have politicians that allowed them in. China wouldn't be here if we didn't have. I mean, that's we are the source. We are the soul of this country. The people of this country is what creates this country, and we, the people, have failed. And I think the China issue that you're discussing is merely a symptom, and it is not the true cause or issue.
There you go, thinking clear again. You have to define the disease. So what is the disease? I have another piece for publish. I'm just getting ready to send out.
I think you stated it, and I stated it in so many words. You stated it. It's identity. We don't know ourselves strong enough to do what I said in the beginning, is to do like you do, and take a stand for yourself. We, as a country, don't know who we are anymore. So identity, and I'm talking in a spiritual sense as well.
Well, that's what I said. God don't build sloppy product. So I'd like to read you what I wrote over the last couple of days for another piece to be put out here soon. Major premise. There is only one valid operating corrosive, credible threat to our republic, the United States of America, created by the political will of the people beginning 4 July 1776. All other governments, political, legal, societal, cultural confusions, corruptions, misconstructions, deceptions, usurpations, acts allowing enticement into involuntary servitude being accepted practice, ultimately resulting in slavery, are the result cops have a picture of me as soon as they type my name in. I don't carry a driver's license. Haven't had one since '87. They spend 15 minutes in their car looking at the computer and getting on the phone, getting directions on how to deal with me. I don't care what my servants do. My servants work for me. That's what they are, public servants. The key word here is servant.
I understand the mindset, but Charlie, hang with me here, because if you read the one long comment that was written,
Yep.
she brought up some valid points, and I wanna give her credence in those points. I'm gonna simplify it here though, and that is this: when I got pulled over, I identified myself. I also stated a few, I couldn't say I worded things exactly like you, but for all intents and purposes, I tried to do the same thing that you're saying. And when I did, the officer didn't care. I was arrested anyway, and carted off to their little box. Now, fortunately, I'd only got to see that for 6 hours as opposed to you spending the amount of time you did in it. But the point is this: they made shit up. They said I was drunk in public and a whole lot of other things. I didn't go showing them driver's license and all this stuff. I said, this is my name, this is who it is, this is God's highway, and it's under constitutional law. And I said, I said, I'm not. I even explained. I said, you only have a right. To regulate commerce, and I'm not engaged in commerce, and I don't need to drive. I don't need any of that. And they didn't care.
Hey, can you hold on?
Huh?
Can you hold on there a minute, Aaron?
Sure.
Let's break that scenario down so you truly understand what you're dealing with. Okay? When the cop walks up to the car, what's the first thing he says?
Can
I
I
see your license and insurance? Our response is, are you attempting to entice me into involuntary servitude?
Okay, well, that is not something I had heard, and that was not my response, because I didn't know this. Again, the question,
Yes.
So the question is, now that we're learning these things,
let's continue to walk through this scenario so that you have it real clear in your mind. Then we'll go back and dissect what you went through. How's that?
well, here's the thing. It's not so much I really don't want to go through a blow by blow on this, because I still am in true knowing that not every scenario and not every person that has to go through this is going to go through the same conditions. There are extraordinarily corrupt people out there that have no concern, and you can be you can have your demeanor, you can be of the knowledge, the wisdom, and state the things that you state. But when you get a 65 IQ, gun-toting, badge-carrying idiot out there.
No, stop. Okay, that is the mindset of a slave. If your liberty is not worth your life, then it is worth nothing. Fear.
All right.
Fear only exists in the future.
Yeah, but there's also knowing when to take that, because I just don't want to walk up and go, okay, it's time for me to die, let's go. I want to live a life, and these people, it's not as easy, because Charlie, slow down a little bit, because I agree with you that if all of us took a stand as I'm going at this from my viewers' perspectives, because if everyone in our country could take the same stand that you're talking about, it would end rapidly. None of this corruption would be around. This is what I stated, but we're not in that place, and You're talking about having a lot of people who are listening to this. They have to mentally work through this.
Well, the question is, why are we not in that place?
Because we don't know who we are.
Bottom line, yeah, you got it right there. The second issue is there's a thing called stand up or bend over. You got to make a choice.
And I agree.
So the real issue here is the commitment to yourself and your creator.
Question.
Okay, so conversations there on a regular basis, and I can guarantee you, boss don't like cowards. The boss doesn't deal with cowards.
So
boss likes stand-up.
I understand that, and I'm agreeing with you. So let me rephrase the question now that we've had a chance to go through this banter. So maybe the real question is how do we get anybody who's going to listen to this be willing to give their lives to some dumb redneck with a gun? Because that's what you're talking about. That's what you're talking about.
Absolutely. Agreed. You phrased it perfectly. Okay. So, let me ask you this. Can I make a decision for you?
No.
Can I make a commitment for you?
Well, commitment to do what? That's
anything.
That's anything. Well, support,
Anything.
knowledge, support, information support. That's what you've already committed to do by being here. So yes, there are some commitments that you.
No, I cannot make a commitment for you. I can't make a decision for anyone else.
You can't make a decision.
All I can do is present the information and allow people to pick it up at their own choice. Okay.
So how do we do that?
That's the ultimate position of respect for other life. So it's real simple how you do it. Okay. Are you sitting at a desk where you have a pen or a pencil?
Say that again.
Are you sitting somewhere at a desk where you got access to a pen or a pencil?
Sort of. I'd have to get one.
This is so simple, it's going to blow your mind.
Okay.
You going to hold it?
Hold on. I have to get up and get one.
Okay. This is going to be fun.
All right, paper and pen.
Okay, hold the pen in your hand. Now follow my orders explicitly. Try to drop the pen. Keep trying to drop the pen. Keep trying to drop the pen. Now, new instruction. Drop the pen. It's that simple. When you stop making excuses to yourself for the fear in your life, it will disappear. Fear only exists in the future. You have to create it and bring it back to the present moment for it to have effect on you. Everything in the past is our life. From the time we're born is full of risk and danger. Falling down the stairs and knocking your teeth out when you're learning to walk. Falling off your bicycle. Cutting yourself on a piece of glass. That's risk and danger. We, as beings in this planet right now, live with risk and danger every day. We all survive to this point. Otherwise, we wouldn't have this conversation. So why would anyone go out into the future, create something that causes them harm and injury, and bring it back to the present moment?
Now you're speaking from a perspective of an understanding that I know a lot of the people who will be viewing this will not have achieved, not have gotten to yet. It goes back to that old. Yeah, that's the point. And so hold on, Charlie. Hear me out. In order to lose that fear, you have to go through an event where you conquer that fear. Now,
it doesn't exist. Why?
Huh?
Why do you have to conquer it? If it doesn't exist, why do you have to conquer it? And in learning this,
because it exists. It exists because of the social construct that we've been living in, because of the matrix that we're on. It exists in everyone because we haven't ever been taught or trained how to get rid of it.
Well, no, I don't think that's true. I think that's backwards. And my own experience and other people I've taught over the years have shown me it's true. The issue is we were not taught how not to have fear.
Well, that same point. Same point.
It's a coin. Yes, I agree, but it's a different side from the coin that we live in.
Well, yeah, we're getting to this. We're getting around the bush from two different directions. The point you're wanting to make is that you basically be in charge of it mentally, and you don't let it into your world. You make the decision that it's not a part of you. It's
spiritually first.
Huh? Well, yeah, but the point is, it's
deep inside of your own soul.
And Charlie.
The second thing to understand is very, very simple. No one learned to walk in one day.
No. So I'm gonna get back to my question, Charlie, and that is how do we present a path that people can accept? And you're saying it's that you've created that path through these documents. So in order to, and I'm going to speak at it from an engineering standpoint, you've created a widget that has a certain task it's supposed to accomplish this. You've got a cotton combine that's supposed to go pick the cotton. All right, so this is what you've done. You've created something that is supposed to accomplish something. So my question, again, is how does somebody who does not know how to let go of the fear from previous events, because you're talking about the past coming into the future to take care of the now. Yes, I understand that, and hopefully most people understand what you were saying, but we derive these feelings and these belief systems from our experiences. And it's exactly your experiences that have made you who you are and hardened you to the point where you don't have that fear and you've let go of it. So the question again is, how do we show that path so that somebody who's listening to this conversation can mentally find the wherewithal, the up from the gut, the stomach, the nads, whatever you want to call it. Find what they need to say, okay, Job 38:10, hereto you cometh, but no further. To make that stand, to say I'm not doing this anymore. How do we find that? Because let's look at it from the greater social context. And I want to relate this to what you've got here in your documents. But the greater social context is that generally doesn't happen individually, but one at a time. When a social structure, because we're talking about the cycles of humanity, and it's repeated itself over and over and over throughout history. People get lazy, They allow others to take control. Their freedoms are taken away. They fall into servitude, and it's the cycle of human servitude into human freedom. And you know, you got after servitude, you got what is it?
Slavery.
Well, that's slavery. But after slavery, you come into a revolution. There's the word I'm looking for. So after slavery, you get revolution, and when revolution, then you get back into freedom for a while. Then you get that whole cycle. And generally, history has said that happens pretty much in a slow process, with people slowly waking up to the point where you get that mathematical function that a lot of thinkers have put on us. They call it, the 100th monkey, the 10%, whatever you want to call it. When you have enough people that go, okay, I'm taking a stand. And there's been a lot of people on YouTube discussing that point where the quote-unquote awakening that you and I are talking about, and that's a spiritual awakening and a physical awakening, to where we lose that fear and say, I'm done, I've had enough. We're going to fight for this. How do we increase that? And so where I'm leading you into this is one of the ways that I see, and I'm gonna say it here. I would hope that we could come up with some other ones, but one of the ones I see that there's a possibility that we can have some of the people who might be listening to this conversation go, okay, show me the beans, show me the proof. So we started this to discuss the documents that you created, and they've been around for some time. So somebody could gain confidence in themselves and the willingness to stand and take that stand that we're talking about, and have less fear enough to do this if they know they've got something solid behind them. Because this is what I was talking about with Casey. I don't remember I think I might have said this in the previous video, but when I went through my ordeal and I got pulled over and I got all those tickets and I had to go through what I went through, at that point in time, I did a tremendous amount of research, and I was on that journey building the confidence, right? So it doesn't happen overnight, like we say, it's a journey. And when all I needed was to have a conversation, and I needed just a little bit of emotional, atta girl, you got it, don't let them stomp on you, you go get her, girl, go get him, girl. That's all I needed. And when I called up this individual hoping to get a little bit of this, I got basically a palm in the nose, and that kind of knocked me back. And I didn't have the strength the next day to go in there and do that. So I ended up settling for the best I could figure in that, because I lost that is an emotional, that is a strength that comes from within, and personally I truly believe it requires support. So the support has to come several ways. And this goes back to your documents. So maybe the easiest thing to do is just to move right into the ways that it has succeeded. Your letters. Maybe you discuss what kind of success stories you have. Maybe you also talk about some of the failures, because I can't believe in my heart that it's 100% effective. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe universe is gonna. Maybe you got you got the cure for cancer when it comes to this issue. Maybe you got it. I don't know, but I think this is the part of the process will be finding out, do these beans cook up well or not. So I'll shut up. I'll let you go at it. How have you succeeded? How have you failed? Where did you learn? What have you done better? Fill in those blanks.
Okay, I think what I see in your statements there from the beginning are two what I consider false premises. Number one, the only people that were ever released by their owner, the slaver, King George, is the American people. French people were never released. The Russians, the Chinese, the Japanese, none of them. Nobody.
Israel?
The Indians? No.
Israel?
Nope. Nope. Israel's a false construction. Based on fraud. Frauds do not exist. They may apply themselves to you if you accept them, but as soon as you call them a fraud, they have a way of quickly disappearing. And the second false premise is that I am responsible for anyone else. That's not true. I am responsible to everyone and everything around me. That's why our website is so different and so dynamic. Casey has done a brilliant job presenting the personality that it takes to experience your own liberty. There is massive amounts of information there with all of these things that are out there floating in the public.
For free?
Well, as far as stories go, my personal stories, look, I'm not your regular guy. I've been doing this a long time. I started this path when I was 12 years old. So, using me for stories is not a good idea because I'm not regular in any way, shape, or form. And like you said, I am hard, but I'm also the most passionate person and compassionate person I've ever met. If I was not, we would not have decided to give that document away. That's what you call true compassion and true commitment to others. We presented a gift to everybody in this country.
So tell us.
So now it's on them.
So no, but tell us a few examples. Maybe Casey can do this. Give us a few examples of things that have occurred in the different states. What states has this been dealt with, and has it been used, and what kind of circumstances? Where it's and where has it succeeded and failed? That's kind of what I'm looking for.
Okay, I'll give you two quick ones, and then Casey can tell you her last story. There's a guy that called me up about 2.5 months ago, had an issue with the divorce in Oregon. I wrote some paperwork for him. He filed the documents into the court. The judge refuses to issue orders. Oh my. I have another girl in California. She had like 15 or 20 different issues that she had to deal with. And all of a sudden, in magic, they stopped when she filed the documents and demanded to see their jurisdiction the way I wrote it out. There's a piece on Rumor Mill, two of them dealing with jurisdiction and sovereignty, that lay out that language that I wrote for both of those situations. Last year, at Trump's rally in Arizona, one of the guys he was the first one to use the identity document, his first iteration. He walked into a Trump rally with no ID whatsoever. His face was recognized at the VIP tent. They came up to him in the middle of the line, asked him who he was and what he was there for. He told them that he was there for an appointment with President Trump. They looked at their clipboard and said, well, you're not on the list. They took him into the front of the gallery, right in front of Trump, with no ID badge, no other clearance whatsoever. The only way that can happen is two. The Trump security is totally sloppy, which I doubt, or they already knew him by his picture. One of the two. Now those events, are pretty big.
So
when you get this,
but there's some pieces in that are not there for a clear picture. So this guy who found his way into the Trump rally, how had he used your material and to get it where his picture was known or something, or they knew him? What happened? How did he use this information to accomplish this?
I can interject and say something about that. So his name is Don, and Don, like Charlie just said, has been carrying the identity doc in its first iteration. So I don't know if it's 9 years or 10 years. I don't know what the timeline is, but for many years, what he did was he actually gave advance notice to Trump that he would be attending that rally. That, I'm Don so-and-so. I'm a depositor of political credit. He gave them advance notice. I think this was just by email. I think it was the WhiteHouse.gov. I can't be sure. But it was some public way to write a message to him. You don't know that it's going to go to him, but obviously whoever needed to see it saw it. So when he shows up with his personal identification, non-government issued ID, it has his name and has a picture. So that is what they recognize. Whether they had to cross-check that in their system, whether that advance notice mattered, they did obviously recognize him and allowed him certain certain things at that rally. They allowed him to go in, ushered him in, took him to to the front, all those kinds of things, and that's what that situation was.
So you've been doing this.
A little more for Don Westover. In 2013, I understood that the people had no contract, provable contract with the public record with their governments. So I decided to like you as an engineer, you would put it up on a big whiteboard and diagram it down to its roots, and then build on top of what was real. What I did. I read the Declaration of Independence and defined what it is. It's a contract between people. That's what it says. We do this in the name and by the authority of the good people. We're representatives. The Articles of Confederation say the same thing, and all original 13 colonies constitutions say the same thing. Then I read the Treaty of Peace, Article 1. King George released all of his interest in the land, that means all property titles, the governments, and his proprietary interest, which is chattel property, cows, horses, pigs, carriages, people. Then I read the federal constitution. The title to the federal government is in the preamble. We the people do this. That's a creation position. That's title. That's ownership. So I said, if these are contracts and all of those guys that signed them and created them are dead, how does a dead man bind me to his contract? Not possible. So I looked at the Declaration of Independence. I looked at original copies of the Confederation and the original copies of the state constitutions, and the federal constitution and the ratifications by the states. You know what was really interesting? There's room on every one of those documents for me to sign on to. None of those documents say that I can't.
So how would you sign on to the Constitution? You can't sign on to the original document. How would you sign on to the Constitution?
You can't sign on to the Constitution because it was created by the states. You can sign on to the state constitution. The state constitution creates an agency for you that created the federal government. Article 7 of the federal constitution says the states created this. The preamble says the people ordered it. So you can look up the term. It's called a lodge. Go back in the title records as far back as they kept written titles. Every transfer is listed on the original document, and get it done. Serving through registered international mail, which is the most protected commercial, legal, and political process, is covered under Rule 44 of the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure and treaties with every country worldwide. I served the Pope. 3 days later, in July of 2013, he issued his motu proprio saying that from now on, this point forward, on my own order, every franchise of the Vatican in any capacity whatsoever is subject to Vatican law. He withdrew his cover everywhere and put it back under his. Wonder why? Because his agent, King George, the Arch-Treasurer and Royal Prince Elector for the Vatican, released all of the Vatican's claims in all of the people here, all of the land and all the governments. An interesting side note is there's 4 paragraphs in the Jesuits' handbook. If I remember right, it's page 487 on the left-hand, on the right-hand side. And what it says in the Jesuit handbook is that when the people understand who they are and can take care of themselves, we have to support them. That's a pretty big point, isn't it?
All right. So then, is this these steps are part of what you have laid out in your documents? I mean, do the people that listen to this, if they want to follow this path, are they all gonna be sending? First off, 2-part question here, because we've got 2 different subjects. One, if we do this, do we have to go download a copy of the state declaration, or do we get it? How do we? Okay, so we don't have to do that. Do we have to? Do we have to send something to the Pope?
Nope. Okay, we've already taken care of that for everybody. So the identity document, the way that it's on the website, covers all of those issues from a much simpler and easier to understand perspective. The first paragraph is a pledge of political will, your private personal property, defining the political system that you choose to live in, and how you're recognized by the political system, the current operating one or the one they want, how you are recognized as part of that political body standing on and under the protection of the law created by the Republic. Second paragraph deals with your identity and where it came from. It says that your parents gave birth to you. The proof is in the first paragraph by your birth certificate. All these characters saying that it's this, that, the other thing don't understand documents. They don't understand contracts. That's an identification document that you arrive somewhere. That's all the document says. No matter what kind of paper is printed on it, no matter what numbers are on it, everybody assigns to it, what the document says on its face and its 4 corners is what controls it. It's an identification document. You arrive somewhere. Now, political choice is the choice of an adult. Under the common law, boys were adults at 12 and girls at 14. That common law has been changed and we're much older now. So when we reach our age of majority, we have the right to choose the political body to which we're loyal. Our parents gave us our name. That's my property. I own it. Second paragraph is the title to my name and my signature. The third paragraph is the depositing creditor's position. Okay, depositing creditor could and does cover the political body because we, the people, deposited our political will in a contract with others and created our governments. That's a deposit. Settlement. We did not sell, bargain away, or gift our political will or private property to governments. We placed it in a trust with other Americans to be administered for our benefit. The second part of the depositing creditor statement is the current money system. The Social Security system sends you a card. The card itself says, this card belongs to us. When we want it back, we'll ask you, you got to give it to us. Pretty hefty you have that in your hands, what you have is a deposit slip into the Treasury, which makes you a creditor to the Treasury. There is no one else that pays taxes that has that except people that have done it. They're all debtors. They're all assumed to be debtors. So let's go back to your traffic stop, and this is where it gets really interesting. When the cop walks up to the car, when he asks you for your license and insurance, he has made an assumption that you could be subject to what he represents. When you respond by giving him the license and the registration and the insurance, you just admitted you're subject to his powers. When you respond, are you attempting to entice me into involuntary servitude? You pushed him back all the way to the beginning of the state as a political body created by the will of the people and a contract between the people. So he's going to say a second time, I need to see this, this, and this. And the second time, when you say, are you attempting to entice me into involuntary servitude? Now, I've been doing this a long time, and back in my highball days in the early to late 90s, I knew a lot of cops from a lot of different jurisdictions, a lot. All of them know exactly what those terms mean. All of them. They're all trained in it. If they weren't, they would be putting their employer, the state or the county or the city at risk. Or torts committed by them, making a legal determination of what your standing and capacity are as a subject. That's slavery, dear.
Yep.
So when you present him with the document identifying yourself, he has no argument with you whatsoever. The system currently has created a demand in their own statutory construction, and give me a minute, I'm going to get to that and put it all in up real quick, that you have to have picture ID issued by the state. They're pretty nasty about that. Well, there's a real easy way to solve that. The identity document has a picture on it, and it has a notary seal. The notary is a bonded by themselves franchise granted by the Secretary of State, the custodian of all records for the state. So you have the Secretary of State, the duties are laid out in the state constitution as a custodian, franchising the notary to say, we now recognize you. Now you got the cop in a situation where you've identified yourself. He can no longer make a determination that you're subject. So let's get to the core of that issue. This is very simple. It only takes 20-30 minutes. All you need to do is go to your state constitution and the federal constitution, wherever you live, doesn't matter, and read the legislative section. The people are not identified there as subjects nor objects to be regulated by the legislature nor any power of the state. If you're not identified as a subject, then you would have to agree to it by consent. Otherwise, it's slavery. Now, how does all of that strike you in its simplicity and clarity, Erin?
For having done a lot of homework, it is a simple path. I agree. The way you put it together allows for somebody to walk that path without too much difficulty.
Yep.
But I want to ask you a question, because there's another path offered by another gentleman, and I want to get your take on the same thing, and that's working. Huh?
I'm good.
All right. So.
I'm looking forward to it.
So one of the other gentlemen that I have followed in learning what he's presenting as far as navigational tools is that again it's the same thing. It's changing your status. That's what we're talking about. changing your status from being a subject of a state or a subject of the U.S. corporation or a subject of whatever you've signed a paper for or decided to get into, to knowing who you get your identity straight, is to do it through the federal government in getting your passport, and that a lot of the documents that have been created have been done that we fill out, like if you want to buy a gun, or if you're getting your driver's license, and all of these different documents that we fill out throughout our lives, they've all been tweaked into misleading you into making the wrong selection. And where I'm going with this is on the passport application. There are two boxes. One box says U.S. citizen, and the other box is other. It used to say this on the, because I bought my share of boomsticks. It used to say on the application for getting a gun, state citizen or other, because if we're born in the states, we're state citizens, is what you're saying. So keep it simple, stupid here. The idea is you resubmit for your passport, except instead of checking U.S. citizen, because you're not a citizen of the United States Corporation, you click other, and they know what that means. That they know what that means, because your birth certificate, as you've stated, is the identifier of where you were born. So that pathway is pretty simple and easy. It's filling out an application, and what is stated is that when it goes through, and they'll slow the processing down because they really don't want to do it, but they'll send you your passport. But what has been said is that changes all the identifiers through the computer systems that they keep on all of us, all the data that they keep in that they pretty much have figured out that when you get pulled over and you are suggesting you have this document that you've created, well, instead of handing them a driver's license, you still want to, they want to see some document that you hand them the passport, and when they go look up the passport number, then on that it'll basically say do not detain, do not stop, do not detain, do not. That's the information that they get, and that people who have the United States of America passport that has refiled it under other basically gets told to move along once the cop goes and runs the passport number. Back to you.
Okay. I'm familiar with the process. I've looked at that extensively. I've talked to the people 3 or 4 years ago that will put that out. I asked them questions they couldn't answer, which is not unusual. But here's the real issue, and it's very simple. I'm going to make it in one statement, and then I'll explain it. Masters, that's the people, are not subject to servants' needs. Period. End of story. I agree, and I have first-hand information from inside certain systems that those passports do, in fact, create a different identity in the system for those people.
Okay.
I know for a fact that it's only 70 to 75, maybe a little more percent complete. All it is really is a notice: don't mess with these people. There's no true standing there. There's 2 reasons why. On the website, in the article section, you go to the hamburger on the top right-hand side, you click on the 3 bars, there's a section of articles there. You're going to find one about U.S. passport applications and what the fraud is. I lay out the fraud there perfectly. There is no such thing as a United States citizen.
I understand that.
None. Okay. For an application to state you could be a U.S. citizen is an invitation to a fraud. If that doesn't void the whole document, what does?
I see your logic. Yes, yeah, I see your logic.
So, what I did, I haven't applied for a passport because the likelihood of me at 71 traveling out of the country ever again is nil. Any of those characters that I'm dealing with now, if they want to talk to me, first they come to me. I've got the clear hand. They know it.
All right, so, what about for those who do want to travel? Let's cover that topic. How do you use this letter to?
Second part. The second part is this: passports are issued in an all capitals name. If you don't own the name, where did it come from and who owns it? Yeah. Document I've created gives you ownership not only of your given name to your parents, but the one created through the trust set up through the Social Security system into the United States Treasury. That's where all your payments go.
Okay.
So
again, Charlie.
Hold on. Let me finish. Way back 15, 20 years ago, I created an LLC in New Mexico for the all caps name. I had the registries checked in every state. No one else had ever done it. I own that LLC. It's good under the statutes I filed under that at that time. An LLC is a privilege by the state. All corporations are a privilege by the state. There's a legal title involved. Process is the state says we will create this for you if you ask. You file an application with your corporate charter. They grant it. At that moment when they granted it, you're required to get an EIN number. That act right there creates a split title. The state owns the equity and always will in the corporation or LLC. You own the legal title. You get the benefits from it, and you agree to be subject to taxes. So I've covered myself both ways. I understood the passport stuff way back. I understood that if you didn't own the all caps name, think about it this way. If you didn't create the all caps name and somebody else did, do they own it or do you own it? It's that simple. The part that these guys miss with the passport is the ownership of the identity of the all caps name.
Okay, then
that's why they only get 75%.
That still doesn't answer my question. My question is this: I go through and I follow your process, and I fill out all these letters, and I send them off, and I get them all back, and I want to hop on a plane to Dubai. What happens?
All right. Well, even though about 25 years, okay, personal experience. Back in the 90s when I was highballing and doing a lot of commercial stuff that was great quite a stir worldwide, in fact, they had to change the ICC rules. They had to add one whole section and modify two others. That's the set of rules that controls all the money transfers in all the banks of the world. They had to alter it because of what I was doing. I was traveling internationally, and they couldn't track me. I've known people that have been in Iraq and Iran before all of the screwball stuff that's going on now. One lady in particular, I don't even know if she's still alive yet. No, she's probably 8, 9 years older than me. She was held up at Iraqi customs. Customs manager said, who are you and what's your identity and how can you travel? And she gave him her Bible. He said, see the name here? You see the name of both my parents? That's who I am. And he got a big smile on his face. He said, I can recognize you. He chauffeured her all over the country for 2 months. So the way around it right now is you create your own form for the passport, and you give them explicit instructions with your identity document that you want your place of birth listed as your state, because the states are independent nations. That's where citizenship starts and finishes. The United States has limited powers to deal internationally. It doesn't have powers to have citizens. It gets that power from the states. That's what the Constitution says. They can make all necessary rules, making it equal for identity and international travel and locally here. That's Congress's authority. So you create your own form giving them the same information. You send your identity document with it as notarized and duly processed, and you give them a recipe and a fiduciary appointment. They now work for you. They have no escape. Because the word tort, an attachment to their employment files, is driving them to recognize you properly. That word tort is very strong.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why is in the United States and every state has passed a rule saying that they will be liable as any other individual in all matters of tort. There's only a few states that didn't do that, but they created something that's parallel to it. What that means is, in real simple terms, is the government cannot defend its employees that commit a tort, a wrong, against the people. What's the wrong? The first one is misidentification of you as a subject. That is the root of all civil rights crimes right there.
Yeah. Which makes sense, because if we've all lost our identities, there's a whole lot of confusion there.
Well, like I said before, I'm not responsible for anybody that goes to the website. I am responsible to all of them to give them complete, accurate information to the best of my ability. I do that, and Casey is a master of delivering that. I'm not going to make a choice for somebody else. I refuse. I'm not going to go into the weak sister position that these poor people need something. That's one of the most arrogant positions I've ever come across.
Oh no!
I'm making a decision when I say these people need something that I know more about their life and what's better for them than they do. Now, if that's not pissing in Creator's face, I don't know what is.
I grant you that. Let's not rehash that. My contention is let me find some good words here. Give me a second. We all have a bunch of trash that we've lived through, and we all allow that mental trash, and that's our choices. It's our choices. I understand that. I used to have a saying that was shared to me by somebody else about when it comes to success with just about anything, and we were discussing this success specifically when it comes to relationships, and it pops up in my mind. So here's how it goes. We all those of us who have lived for any amount of significant time on this big rock, develop baggage. We have these experiences, positive and negative, and so we're all carrying around a bunch of luggage with us, right? And he says the difference between a successful person is the one who's always on the go. And it doesn't matter how many luggages and bags they got. You tell them, hey, we're on a trip to Tahiti. They grab their bags, they're up, and they're gone. They're, all right, let's go, let's do it. It's, good attitude. And then you have the folks out there that had a bad experience, and that thing is a ball and chain around their ankle. And anytime something happens, oh, but this horrible thing's going on. So there's a difference in attitude, because if it's a burden, oh, I got all this heavy stuff to carry, and that's a different mental baggage and weight that individual has to deal with on their own accord. So set that whole issue aside of whether they can or can't on their own. Again, for me, my goal is to help increase the level of success for the same thing that you're saying. I want to give the best to all. I'm not going to be responsible for each and every individual based on their ability to carry their own baggage. When I tell people, and I do it a lot in person, on and in videos, they'll give me. There's a lot of people who talk to me when you get to talking to me in private. A lot of them don't like talking to me because I hold them personally accountable the same way that you do. In other words, I don't like to listen to excuses. I'm telling you, you can do it this way or not. But I had this problem. I got that baggage, and I tell people, look, you want to know if you can do it, you and I think a lot alike, and we have the same kind of attitude. But I have learned that in some ways, I need to be a different teacher at different times if I really want success. And for me, success. So, all right, okay. So let's back up another step here. You have a picture in your head of probably where you would like to see this world in this country. I have a picture in my head of where I'd like to see this world in this country. We are not in that picture. We are in a journey to get to that picture.
Agreed.
Exactly. And so for me, the picture is a different one than you. Okay, I have a different picture than you because I don't think we've discussed this, but I'm much more of an anarchist than you. I would love to see a world where there were no governments because I don't want no rulers. And as you stated, if everybody lives by their decision of being sovereign, then there won't be governments. It is the same thing. The question is, how do we get there? And
hold on right there. I think I need to clear something up. The statement that there's no governments, the common law is the government. There is such a huge misconstruction in this country from the patriot idiot community. And I have first-hand testimony from a guy that worked for J. Edgar Hoover as a lawman for 10 years, who had the authority to writ anyone in or out of any custody situation or court case anywhere in the country on a signature, his own. What he did for 10 years was misdirect the patriot idiot community, in particularly the understanding of what the common law was. The common law is real simple. It's tribal in nature.
yeah,
Everyone under the tribe understood the rules. There were only two penalties. Make the other party whole or banishment. Banishment meant that you had no tribe to protect you, and anybody could do whatever they wanted to you because you had no one for protection.
yeah. And now I wouldn't call that a government. I would call that a social structure. And there's probably some better words for it.
Because everybody agreed. It's a government. It was a oral contract that everybody lived the same way under. It was an absolute government. in the court and apparently scared some judges because she told them she was bringing her common law and she gave them the rules to operate by. Well, what total bullshit is that? For the law to have any value, you have to agree to consent to it. It has to be valuable to you. So these characters are so freaking smart. They're telling these people that we pay to administer our law that they're now subject to her law, and they have no recourse. They can't. All they need to do is say, "I don't consent to that." One time, and it blows her whole position up completely. These judges are so ill-educated, they ran. But the arrogance of the position for someone to walk into the people's court, whether it's critically operated or not, and declare that her law is in control, she's making a slave out of me and everybody else to her. I'm not going to put up with that.
But that's goes back to what I said, last time we talked about demeanor. Demeanor is about humanity facing humanity. Demeanor makes a huge difference, and that's also the point I'm trying to share with the people who are listening to this, that it is about acquiring that demeanor that you're presenting here, that's necessary for others to vibrationally and emotionally understand that you are you're not somebody that wants to be that they want to mess with, because it's like walking into a boxing ring and seeing that the look in the eye of your opponent and going, maybe I shouldn't be here. No matter how skilled you are, it's an energy sense. It's the way the energy's.
Okay.
You see where I'm going?
Let me address the energy issue. Okay. I spent a year straight in a steel room less one day. Quarter-inch plate steel on the ceiling and the walls with quarter-inch holes drilled in them for light and air. Stainless steel shower, sink, and toilet. A steel bunk with a 2-inch, 30-year-old cotton mattress. I spent a year straight there. Concrete and steel floor. No energy gets in there. Very difficult. So if you don't draw the creation's energy into yourself in that room, you're going crazy. So I was given some gifts from creation itself, what I call the boss. I read energy patterns real well. I can work with them. I can talk to them and get answers. Anybody can do this. In fact, we're writing a manual on how to make this function for anybody right now. So when I got out of prison, I met a guy that had developed a system to measure energy patterns in motion. And there's a number of ways to do that. His system was a little different. The numbers are a little different. But in October of 2009, the vibration rate of the collective human consciousness for the United States was 700 to 1,000. Now, we went back and looked at the vibration rate November 21st, 1963. It was above that. It was in the 2,000 and 3,000 range. On the 24th, it was down around 400. We tracked all of the events since then to the present moment, which was 2009, and we noticed a pattern. Every time the vibration rate of the collective human consciousness of the American people raised above a certain level, some sort of event would happen and would bring it back down. So we set up a monitoring system, every other week or so. We checked the collective human consciousness vibration rate for not just the people in this country, but for the planet. Now, the vibration rate changes from one dimension to the other, to the next, at the same vibration rate on this scale as gold. On this scale, gold vibrates at 112,000 through 120. So the collective human consciousness 2.5 weeks ago reached a steady 123,000. It's over the break point. In other words, people are beginning to involved with them, I run through a litany of questions about how parallel are they with me and my intent, what's their integrity level, and so on, their vibration level. When I'm working with someone, I measure their vibration rate at least once a week. So I know what their emotional and etheric operational capacities are. Anyone can, look, you're technical. See how this strikes you. The internet has a separate identity all of its own. And you can have a conversation with it if you can be real quiet and listen to it speak to you. Does that strike you?
I would want to see in what form of media are you going to be communicating?
Well, the way I do it is real simple. I just say, look, I'm clear. I'm working with all the power that ever was or will be here at the present moment. My intent is to work in harmony with the neutral flow of energy from creation itself. It makes up all life in all parts of this dimension. And I would like to open a dialogue with the identity of the internet. Pick anything you like. There's, what we broke it down to is there's dynamic energy, which is energy that's full of life, and static energy, which is fixed, that had some sort of life before. Rocks have life. Iron ore has life, has an identity. Everything has its own identity.
Mm-hmm.
The trees that I'm looking at right now, and the telephone poles and the power poles, they share a certain amount of identity because the telephone poles are dead, stored identity of the live tree. Talking to dead items, that's a dead end pretty much, no pun intended. Talking to a tree is not, because it has life force energy the same as you do. And here's how simple it is. If you are the created from this same energy that makes up all life, would that mean that there's a common language between all life forms?
Well, yeah.
That's simple. Okay. So, why aren't you having a conversation with these other identities? The internet is man-created. Artificial intelligence is a joke.
Well,
It's not of creation. It carries some of creation's energy because men transferred their identity to create the internet.
Yeah, it would be a pseudo form of the connection to all those that are entangled in it.
Yep. So, the way that it works in the law system is to understand the law the same way. The law has an identity as well. Common law has an identity. Equity has an identity. Admiralty has an identity. All these characters talking about admiralty law being a control full of crap. All you have to do is look at the definition of admiralty law. It deals with maritime issues and contracts only. So you can identify the maritime contract, you cannot access maritime law or admiralty. Yeah? To deal with the common law, you have to have standing in that community. That's why you need to sign on to the document to make your pledge to where the foundations are. In order to access equity, you have to have the contract available to you, which is our identity document where you pledge your political will that created everything in this country. Everyone in the patriot idiot community feeds the corruption beast by talking about it every freaking day.
I would agree.
That's all they do.
I would agree with that.
And even the 2 or 3, I check all the time, that are putting out what they call solutions. They're basing their solutions on arguments with their servants. In other words, you have one set that's the subjects and the others that are the master show me your record of all of your public performance, Mr. Public Servant, that's in compliance with the People's Law, particularly the Declaration of Rights and the State Constitution and the Federal Bill of Rights. Because if you can't, you committed a tort and you harmed me and you're personally liable. And since the government waives tort, they can't defend you. And there is no excuse. How's that strike you?
It sounds pretty good to me. Again, the big question is, how do we find the right words again? How do we get the people who are going to listen to this to get to the place where we have our own internal confidence, our demeanor is set and changed so that we can emotionally, mentally, and spiritually take ownership of our own existences back, because that's what we're talking about.
Okay, I can't make a decision for you, nor can I get you to do anything. What I can do is present the very best of what I know and understand to the best of my ability. Casey has created an almost perfect delivery system. Like, there's 300 articles there. If you go through all of them, you're going to come to these conclusions. But when I was young in high school, my parents split up, and to say I was a bit wild would be a massive understatement. So I was required to get what they called counseling at that point. It came through the church that I went to. And I learned a couple of things there. And there's two techniques that work for anybody. And they're both going to sound real stupid. But I promise you, if you try it, you're going to find out a lot about yourself. The first is the bag therapy. Go to the grocery store and get 6 or 8 or 10 or how many other you think you have problems, paper bags, big ones. You fold the top over real deep, about 3 or 4 inches down, so it looks like a trash can. And on that, you write a particular issue that you're having trouble with, whether it's etheric or emotional or physical or mental or relationship or children or whatever. It doesn't matter. Every time one thing comes up that you've got a bag name for, you mentally throw it in that trash can with the commitment to deal with it properly when you're ready. So you programmed your own mind to let go right there. You threw it in the trash. The second technique is what's known as the mirror therapy. All you do is look at yourself in the eye in the mirror and ask yourself who you are and who you want to be. You know why you can do that?
Yeah, okay, pause.
The more you know yourself.
Pause. That for the people that get really close to me, there's a habit that I have them attempt to develop, and that is this: before you get out of bed and do anything in the morning, every morning, as you're coming out of sleep, to ask yourself 3 questions: who am I? Where am I at? And where am I going? And
beautiful.
And before answer these things, and how you answer those questions will define your existence. And if you don't like it, maybe you need to find different answers.
I think I sent this piece to Casey. I'll say it right now. When I stand in the shower before I go to bed every night, it's parallel with what you just mentioned. And what you said there, Erin, sent up shivers up my spine, and I will start practicing that tomorrow morning, I promise. So in the shower every night, this is what I say to myself out loud. Every day, in every way, I'm getting better and better and better. My increasing powers are helping preserve humanity better. I'm aware of any and all danger approaching myself, particular the outer sensing dimensions, and able to work with them consciously and subconsciously for my highest and best interest and use, because that's my highest and best service to creation and all life forms in it. My positive thoughts, words, and actions bring me all the benefits I desire. And then I list 3 things that I need to take care of.
Excellent.
And while I'm doing that, I set up mentally that the energy stored in water comes from the mother. The sun energy stored in the water comes from the father. So I let it wash all of the stress out of my body and return to the earth, the mother, for recycling.
I've got one more question I want to ask you on this, and it's not on the same topic, but it is at the heart of the challenges of those people who have a hard time on this journey. So everything that we've talked about, there is an issue that is very, very difficult for a lot of people to swallow. So I'm going to present to you the foundation of the question, and I'm going to ask you to answer the question, or to address this issue in however you choose to, because I want to hear your opinion on what you think, and then I want to take a break, and then and move into a second part where we can turn towards your new projects. You okay with that?
Yep.
All right. Because this is the hard one. This is the one that I get the most pushback in conversations with people on. And so I believe, and I have studied quite heavily, the law of attraction. And I also believe or know that we are spirits, consciousnesses, or energies that have come here for the purpose of experiencing contrast and hopefully making choices to improve what we've experienced, so that the physical experience that we go through can be a better place. In knowing this, accepting full responsibility for your full existence is a part of the process of taking control of your life, taking the reins of. So what we were talking about earlier in getting yourself spiritually in alignment with being sovereign, with being not being a slave and being the owner of yourself, is to accept full responsibility for everything that you have done and experienced. Now, it's not easy. I have done that, and that's the difference I think you see in our conversations, is that I know that everything that I've done in my entire life is a full result of my decisions, even though at times early in my life I didn't understand them because of where I was out in my journey. So here's the thing, and I'm going to take it from the female perspective, because women have a hard time with this. Men do too, but women have a hard time with this, and that is, well, I was molested at the age of 1, 3, 5. I had these horrible things. These men did these things to me. Horrible experience, and how the hell? I never chose that. I didn't want that. Don't tell me that I'm responsible for that man raping me. And this is a big wall to overcome. And I don't know, if it, what I had to do is overcome it for myself to realize that I needed to learn lessons from that. And though it was not pleasant, the encounters that I had of assault and sexual assault and physical assault in that nature, what I had to understand was the reason it happened was because I did not at that point in time, understand who I was spiritually, and I was mentally in servitude, and so it's not easy to say or explain that, but there are a lot of people, both men and women, that have a damn hard time wanting to accept full responsibility for everything that happens to them. So, what would you say to that?
Well, number one, my heart goes out to you for what you experienced, and you have my love, care, and absolute respect because you learned the essential lesson. Okay? I'm 71 years old, and to say that, when I was 13, 14 years old, they told me I lived on the edge. Well, hell, by the time I was 17, you couldn't find that edge. I was so far beyond it. I lived that way my whole life. I've had 3 different lives. Prior to 24, I was as wild doing shit that nobody should ever be doing. In some very interesting places. From 24 to 44, I was a married man, raised a family. I was good at being a father. I was less good at being a husband. From the time my son was born in 87, I knew he had no future and I needed to do something, and I became what I am now. This is the essential lesson I think that you just iterated to all of us, Erin. Yesterday is dead and gone. We have 2 choices, and it's only our choice, and no one else can make it for us. No one can really help us make this choice either. Our past is either a bunch of lessons or it's a ball and chain, one or the other. And you get to choose. You obviously chose the right path. Because when your past becomes a lesson, are you actually in service to creation by providing creation itself with the return of energy from creation by your actions, giving it more information to expand? I'll explain it this way. My children were trained in the Waldorf system. Their mom was the teacher trainer for the West Coast. It's the world's largest private school system. She built up schools in Hawaii, China, all over. Well, they were talking, Trish is 9 years old, Tobin's 7, and Trish asked me one day what I thought God was because they were dealing with someone with the class, and I said, well, Trish, I don't think like it about it like most people. I've read the Bible, I've read the Quran, I've read the Tibetan and the Egyptian books of the dead. I've read all sorts of stuff, and I came to a real simple conclusion. Creation itself is the first thought. Know yourself. And that goes everywhere and affects everything, and that's where identity comes from. All consciousness in human beings and trees and everything else. The second issue is that's a gift. So I'm going to teach you how energy actually works. I said, I put my right hand in a fist and I held it out and I said, I've got something in my hand. I want you to reach out and grab it. So she reached out and we grabbed right hands. I said, that's my gift to you with no strings, just like it is from creation to you for your life, your identity, if you choose to pick it up. Now, when you give me the great privilege of respecting my gift and treating it as gold, you just gave me the greatest gift in the world. And I held my left hand out with my palm up and I said, give me the gift. So she clasped my hand. I said, now, back up half a step. I did as well. I said, look down at the figure we just created here. That's the infinity signal. true energy works. It comes from creation, passes through you, and goes back to creation. That's what you call a proper servant. To me, that's what God is. You got a 7-year-old and a 9-year-old. They understood that perfectly. Does that strike you, Aaron?
Good food for thought. Extremely good food for thought. So we're at an hour and 42 minutes of recording here, and that's going to be a hell of a video for me to upload. I think we really did a bang up job on a discussion here, and I think I've made the point that I wanted to make in my challenges and rebuttals. I would hope that anybody who makes it through this far can, through time of their own journey, find it within them to love themselves, to see past all the challenges that have been in their lives, to take ownership of their life, and to find the thing that both you, Charlie, and I have been discussing. That is it's a beautiful thing. I'm not saying I'm perfect at it. I don't feel like I'm an expert at it. It's still a journey, and I'm still exploring this. But there's a whole lot of people. There's a whole lot of people that have looked at me and said, "Aaron, how do you get this confidence? How do you get you know because I have faced death. I have had near-death experiences where I think I have seen things that go against everything that we've been taught, and I have figured out how to love myself and value myself. So,
if you don't figure that out, who will?
Exactly.
Let me give you the key to the whole deal here. Dear, when you get to be perfect, you can't be here anymore.
Sorry, I had to jump up. One of my cats was going to dig a hole through the door if I didn't let him in. Come here, Smokey. Come here. Come on. So the people in the... Come here, buddy. You want... Alright, there's my buddy. For those of you who see the video, this is my buddy Smokey, and when they don't get let in, they will dig a hole through the door. Anyway, this has been fabulous, and again, I hope those who've stuck through to this far in the video can see past all the challenges that make your metal, that hammer you down into the sword that you can be. Because this is I think is the crux of our journeys here, and that's why, in the end, as tough as things that are going to be in this country for the next few years, I think it is all a part of the process, and that has been my goal here with my channel, to give people the little bits and pieces and tools of knowledge about, self-sufficiency with your food and whatnot, or your power and your water systems and all of these things that are around you that help you have that confidence. And that's what I was, why I was questioning, your path so strongly, Charlie, is because in order for somebody to become confident in themselves, or to self-love, they have to believe that that they do stand on solid ground. I'm choosing those words because of the meaning. What is your standing? Well, I stand on something solid, and that's what I was hoping for you to share with that sense of solidness, and where does it come from, and how do we get it? And it is a choice. I grant you, it is a choice, but it's the getting to that choice that I see is the challenge for those who are listening?
Well, okay, let me make a couple comments. Number one, I don't need to make excuses for anyone else.
No, I'm not asking you to.
Okay, number two, the strongest thing you could ever stand on is the love of yourself and your relationship to creation. What more do you need? And if you don't love yourself, why should anyone else? If you don't respect yourself, why should anyone else?
Exactly.
If you don't identify yourself, someone else will. Those are all related, aren't they?
100%.
That's why we created the identity document and we gave it away as a gift.
Good, good. Excellent.
Why?
Excellent.
Why did we give it away? It's real simple.
Because it improves the quality of your life.
Well, that's the ultimate goal, but, you know, my motivation was, I've been doing this stuff a long time, man. I got more experiences than most anybody out there. I've argued with so-called all the patriot, idiot, patriot gurus for years. Anna Von Reese and I had a piece going on Rumor Mill. I asked her to show me the corporate charters of her so-called BS. To do it. I asked her to show me where a foreign corporation can come onto our soil and act as a government. She couldn't do it.
Yeah.
I mean, all these people talking about that. There's a current piece on Rumor Mill, federal jurisdiction, that goes through and explains it completely. And one of the things we have coming up is a new page. It'll have a new title. It's listed in the article. And what it will be is Archivist of Congress certified documents proving certain points. United States Code was never intended to be law. Every attorney is required to be licensed and have 2 licenses before he goes to court.
And they
Federal
don't.
law.
They don't.
The amount of information we're going to put there, I have a massive job ahead of me to reread all of that and make short notes about what it says and how you can apply it. That will be coming.
Cool.
That
All right.
won't be a gift.
So
That won't be a gift. That'll be a 4D service. And Casey and I have discussed but haven't concluded on how we're going to structure that.
okay.
There will be documents, a title for you to own your own body, own your own vote, and have a contract with any public servant that's provable in their system. And how you own your own information and cut Google, Facebook, and the rest of the goo-faced Twitter-ons down to size. And it's
That
not
could be interesting.
complicated. All it takes is execution on your part. Then, you either have the law system and you trust it, which will go into place and actually do the work for you, or you will believe that corruption is superior to the law. That's the choice. Either the law works or there is no law.
Okay.
Don't apply the law. All of the Patriots make this statement. Oh, but they won't let me. All they do is feed into the corruption. They deny themselves access to an application of the law by not presenting it.
Agreed.
And these guys are gurus? Come on.
So question is that what you were? Is that what you were wanting to share with us, or is it you want to go into further depth on that?
No, this is all in process.
Okay.
Casey and I have a very unique relationship, okay? I talked to her once. The second time I talked to her, I said, look, I already sensed, the vibration rate's right, parallel with my intent, your skills, my skills, they match really well. I need to talk to your partner, right? So I talked to Michael. The third conversation, we agree that Michael and Casey are a team. Just like Saoirse, my partner, and I are a team. We agreed to do contracts between the people are. Everybody that's listened to them says it changed their life. There's nothing else for sale there. We're not selling anything. At this point, I learned a long time ago, when you give first, what you receive back is always exponentially larger.
Yes, it is.
That's the way I operate.
Yes, it is.
So Casey agreed, Michael agreed, Saoirse agreed, and that's what we've done. And now we have reached the point. The numbers on the website, the effect that we're having, the energy effect of that website inside the system, and Casey monitors it, and the tampering goes up and down. It's time for us to move into a full and complete phase, which we will.
Okay.
And we're ready.
Cool.
I've probably got 40 pieces, maybe 50, that have been written for a long time that need to be edited and put out. There's a Second Amendment piece coming, and here's how simple it is. Well, Judge, Mr. BATF guy, Mr. FBI guy, until you can identify from the Constitution any section whatsoever the authority granted to the United States government or any state government to have jurisdiction over the Second Amendment, it doesn't exist, and you're lying to me and personally liable. How strong is that statement?
Pretty darn strong.
Yep. Is it 100% accurate, true, and complete?
I'd have a hard time giving you any argument to that based on my knowledge.
Okay. So the next piece that we have coming out, we've been working on for 2 or 3 weeks, is an invoice book you'll be able to buy with a copy of your identity document once you've executed them, send them to us. We'll print them on both sides. We'll provide you a citation book, just like a copy ticket book. And it's got a tort in it. You can fill out his name and give it to him right on the spot.
Oh, I love that. Hold on. I love that because I want something like that. So you're gonna love this. I have posted on my property a couple of these no trespassing signs that I went over it with my subscribers a year or so ago when I had some issues, and they're the ones that come. There's 2 different sources that basically the same thing, but it uses U.S. code to tell any government agent that they are not allowed to come on my property under any circumstances unless they have a warrant and and it is and any instance of that happening is a $5,000 fine per person per day, so on and so forth. And a few days back, about a week or so ago, I had some sheriffs from the other county come over and start coming onto my property because, well, they received some reports about there was a fire somewhere and somebody was scared and they needed somebody to go take care of things for them. So they're running around, and I let them know because it was at night. I got them pulling up into my road here, and I'm seeing lights that I shouldn't be seeing. So I go out and meet them, and I'm telling them, I said, "Did you read that sign? Did you read that sign? You're trespassing. You need to leave. You're not even in the county that you're supposed to be working in." So I go at them pretty hard, and I let him know that he was subject to being fined $5,000, and his partner sitting in the passenger seat was also subject to being fined $5,000. They were a little skittish about that because they're like, well, we're just looking for a fire, emergency. It's emergency with it. I'm like, but did you read the sign? Now, here's the thing, Charlie. While that's going on, that was all I could think about, was to have a little book in my hand where I could sit there and write him up a ticket and hand it to him and say, here's $5,000 fine right now. I would have loved to have done that.
All right, I'll read it to you. I think you'll understand it immediately and how powerful it really is. versus the flow with any public servant whatsoever. So at the top, you've got your name, address, phone, email, and below that date, place to fill it in, time. Public record document, which is your identity document, your certificate of citizenship that you filed, and the date that it was filed. Custodian, Secretary of State of whatever state you have to fill that in, and other public offices. Notice of liability claim attachment, citation, in red, bold. Recognition of and acceptance of fiduciary employment obligation. Certificate of appointment as fiduciary. And then it's got a place for a or a case number or whatever. 2, you fill in their name. I, fill in your name. Appoint from my stand and capacity of beneficiary of and to all government's powers or authorities, whatever state, to position the name of the party, to position personal fiduciary to me in all matters related to contact and proceedings causing this citation to issue. I stand on and am protected by the people's jurisdiction defined by Constitution of the state of whatever in the original year, and the Constitution for the United States of America, 1787, as controlled by amendments, Bill of Rights, 1791. The certificate of citizenship as presented properly identifies me, whoever you are, as completely protected by the people's original jurisdiction defined by Constitution, to which all public servants voluntarily bind themselves to serve honorably. Failure to identify and produce authorities from the Constitution verifying your interaction with me is a tort. United States waives sovereign immunity in tort, 28 U.S. Code 2674. The majority of states have either waived sovereign immunity or provided similar process that the United States has concerning torts. Waiver in this context is admission and confession that no government is empowered to cover up, protect, or represent tort-feasing public servants trespassing outside the limits of the constitutional authority granted by the people. Enticement to involuntary servitude is a tort and a felony. Itemized statement of damages. Failure to 1, tort. Failure to identify and produce specific sections of the state of whatever United States Constitution's legislative sections defining the subject matter, identifying the people as ruled over as subjects of or to government powers. 5,000 each instance, compounding and accumulating per act or omission. 2. By the way, that's every day that they don't clear up their mess is 5,000. 2. Labor, $2.50 per hour for defending or prosecuting torts or unsubstantiated acts or omissions. 3. Recipient is now appointed fiduciary to and for protection of my rights, secured and reserved by the people's jurisdiction, defined by constitutions as required by public servants' contract. 4. I do not consent to be regulated or licensed in any manner under any government process not authorized by Constitution. You, Dickweed Delbert public servant, are duly served. You are advised in the strongest term possible to obtain the federal form W-9, request for taxpayer identification number certification, and Form 56 notice concerning fiduciary relationship. Execute same properly and advise the attorneys representing your agency that you have been served. Signed and dated. Thank you very much. How's that for a mouthful?
And it's a lovely mouthful. I'd love to test that one out myself. I'd love to test that.
Casey and I are working very hard on getting that together so we can deliver it properly to the people. And when we have the book up, we'll give you a call back. We can do this again and go through it. So when the cop's standing at the door and you say, "Oh, I have something for you."
Yep.
All right. Here's what happens now. I checked with one current highway patrol and one retired captain highway patrol about 2 weeks ago. I checked with a former federal officer of a very GS 15 or 16, pretty high up there. And servant gets that, they are required to turn it over to the attorney for their agency or office. That attorney is required to turn it over to the Attorney General for the state for a legal determination. That legal determination has to come back down the chain of command to the guy that got the ticket. How powerful is that?
I want to see it at work. So,
yeah.
Hey, we haven't.
The same process.
Charlie?
The same process back in the 90s, and it worked like a charm every time.
Well, all right, we'll have to get into it. We're at 2 hours on this, and we didn't break it up, so I kind of want to wrap this up. I know it gets hard to digest. Let's put this one out there and give it a little time and see how it is, what comes of it, comments and such, and we can go in it. You've given us a little taste of some of your newer projects, so we won't do a second part to this. So you've got a couple of interesting things that you're working on. Maybe we can dive into that or whatever the next go round. Give it a week or two, couple weeks.
All right.
So Casey, I'd like to ask you to give us your critique of our conversation today from your perspective. And the reason I do that, look, I know I'm a warrior. I've been there and done that. I got a lot of stuff behind me on that. Casey is a warrior as well, but she comes at it from the feminine perspective. And that is extremely valuable to me. So tell us either how good we did today, Casey, or what we need to fix.
I agree with Erin that it was bang on. It was stellar. I think it, we may have thought the other interview was good. I mean, there was definitely wonderful information there, but the flow was perfect. The amount of information inserted was perfect. It was bang on. Yeah.
Thank you.
Excellent. So, like I said, let's wrap this up, and thank you guys for coming, and let's hopefully we can strengthen the resolve of people to stand stronger on their own 2 feet, so that as we move forward in time, and I say that tongue-in-cheek, but as we grow vibrationally, that we can be stronger. We can be stronger and stronger, because it's going to be needed, because the battle that you spoke of is going to get stronger as we come to a head on this, and we all will need to have our mental and spiritual weaponry or defense systems, or whatever you want to call it, hardened in time here. So thank you all, and thank everybody for hanging in there. If you really hung in there for the last 2 hours and 6 minutes, that's pretty special, because most people's attention spans don't go past about 6 minutes.
Okay, so I open this up with the word of war.
Yep.
Okay, there's only 2 positions in war, either win or lose. And either position always has lots of casualties.
Yep. Yes, it does. It's going to be. So, on that note, I'm going to wish you guys a good one, and we're going to say we'll catch you on the next one, okay?
All right. Thank you, Erin.
Thank you, Erin.